Welcome to we're on E. Oh no, we were on E before, so I feel like we're actually making progress. We're on epilepsy, so seizures would fall into that category. And so yeah, healing by design, epilepsy. We'll start with a prayer, as always. All right, Father, we thank you for this time together. We ask that you give us more insight and wisdom into your amazing creation, Lord, that we would learn how to honor your creation and to align with your heart and how you designed us to live so that we would have fullness and we would not have sickness and disease. So give us continued wisdom in the things that you've made. And we pray that you would give us insight and heal those that are suffering with these afflictions such as seizures and epilepsy that we're discussing today. We pray in Jesus' name, amen. All right, so I better do my little intro because I haven't done a class in a while, so we might need more chairs. I think we're okay for now. Did you get notes? Okay. Hey, Hannah. Yeah. I think I printed out a few more notes on my printer, and just keep an eye out if we need more chairs. Okay. Thanks. So, as with all the classes that I do, especially with this series, it's this understanding that sickness and disease is a result of misalignment with God's creation, with how God designed us to live. And I don't feel like there's any exception to any of those. Epilepsy would be no exception, of course. So there's something going on with epilepsy that God designed the body to work a certain way, and it's not working that way. So this isn't a problem of God and creation. This is a problem of stewardship of God's creation, and not necessarily our choices, but things in the world that affect us, generational things that affect us, etc. But something has caused a misalignment with creation in this topic. So this topic, we are going to need a couple chairs, Hannah, thank you. This topic, as much as anyone, I just want to share my heart in that one of the main reasons I do these classes is to get people off of a man-made medical system full of petrochemical drugs that damage and destroy the human body, that are a that falsely lead people to believe that they're helping or curing their illness or disease. And to get onto what I call God's system. And the way you get onto God's system is you steward your bodies. You eat nutritious food. You only choose the things that God gave us. You heal and cleanse the body. I mentioned this in the asthma class, and I think the epilepsy class is a big one for this, that we don't want to be reliant on a man-made system when things turn. And things are going to turn. I don't know when. I don't know if it's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, but things will change in America. And I'm not going to speak too much more into that. But this system that's called the medical system is taking control of our culture and our people. And when things change and everything's not accessible 24/7 and you can't just call your doctor on a whim and go get a prescription, or you can't just order anything online. In other words, when things get tough in America, you don't want to be on asthma inhalers. You don't want to be on antispasmodic drugs that your life depends on it or not if you have this medication because you're having seizures. And what'll happen is either you won't have access to these drugs and you can have a seizure and it would cost you your life, or the drugs will be available to you at a cost. And you'll be paying $1,000, $3,000, $5,000 for your medication that used to get with a copay for $20. This is what's going to happen in America. So that's why I stress this with this class with epilepsy, that you don't want to be on these drugs, and you don't have to be on these drugs. So let's get into what epilepsy is. It's Greek. Most of these disease names come from a Greek origin. It's Greek for to seize upon, which would make sense. Epilepsy means to seize upon. So if you think of epilepsy in its most basic understanding or definition, it's a dysfunction or an interruption in the electrical system of the body. Okay, so we know the body's electric, right? We know our heart's electric, we get EKGs, we get EEGs, we get a little shock in the light socket and volts go through our whole body. So our body's an electrical organism. The brain is electrical, and the brain has nerves and neurons and neurotransmitters and things that help the brain to communicate and to function properly. And so what's happening with seizures or epilepsy is a disruption in that system. I just thought of I don't have a pen. I'm going to say it now because I don't have a pen to say it later. But no, it's okay. I haven't talked about nutrition yet, but I just remember this article that I read that was really interesting. Thinking of the body's electrical system. Think of a computer. Okay, the computer's electrical component. You try really hard not to spill things on your computer. You try not to have your water or your drinks by your computer because it'll short circuit your computer and the electrical wiring stops working, right? I read this fascinating article one time, and it talked about what happens when you pour soda pop on your electronics, on your keyboard. And it talked about the systems and the circuit breakers and how everything works and how everything gets short-circuited, and the electrical impulses can't travel across the mediums on how they're designed. And this wasn't about nutrition at all, but it occurred to me that this is exactly what happens every time you put sugar into your body or you put soda pop into your body. You're short-circuiting the ability of your body to work the way God designed it. Because sugar in its processed white form and soda pop, these things that God did not make, did not create, are not designed for the human organism. They're man-made creations that destroy the human body. And so obviously God didn't make, things that destroy the human body. He made fruits and vegetables. They don't have this damaging effect on the body. But man-made things have this damaging effect on the body. So many things you put in your body are going to short-circuit your electrical system. And this isn't just epilepsy and seizures. This is tremors and Parkinson's and all related, nerve-related disorders. This can be kind of categorized into a nerve-related disorder. And so there's many variations of that, epilepsy being one. So epilepsy is a chronic condition where fits or attacks of unconsciousness occur. There may or may not be confusion associated with it. I did underline here, it's a serious disorder of the central nervous system. Happens in children, happens in adults. I've worked with multiple people that have seizures. It is studied and indicated that most of the attacks do occur in childhood and early adult life, and they can tend to say people can tend to grow out of it, like whatever that means. The body self-corrects. God's design is a healing design, right? So sometimes things do correct just because the body heals itself. It's interesting, when I was studying it, it talked about how this issue with seizures has afflicted some pretty famous people throughout the world. Napoleon, Alexander the Great, and Julius Caesar. I just thought that was fascinating, so I thought I'd mention it. Ancient people believed that evil spirits entered the body of a person afflicted, seized upon his soul, and threw his body into convulsions. Christians blame the devil for convulsions. So I want to address that as a firm and pronounced believer in Jesus, that I do believe, obviously, in demons and demonic possession, and it's very clear in the Bible related to that. And I'm going to read the scripture that's pretty well known in Matthew 15 related to that. If you have a question, we can save it to the end.
Well, it's kind of a comment on
okay.
what you just shared.
Yes.
I can wait till you're
Okay. Yeah, we'll save it to the end. Thank you. So, so Matthew 15, I'll just read the scripture just to bring this to light, the truth of the fact that there is a spiritual aspect potentially to epilepsy. And when they had come to the multitude, a man came to him, kneeling down to him and saying, "Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic, suffers severely, falls into the fire and into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they could not cure him." And Jesus said, "O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? Bring him here to me. Jesus rebuked the demon. It came out of him, and the child was cured at that very hour. Then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, why could we not cast it out? Jesus said to them, because of your unbelief. Assuredly, I say to you, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. However, this kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting. So, I have shared in classes before where the Lord is leading me in health and nutrition is prayer and fasting. I think it's the only way we're going to heal the human body. It's the only way we're going to fully reconnect to God to do his purposes, that we have to be spending time with the Lord, that we have to be fasting. If you want to be a major part of what the Lord is going to do over the next few years, you have to live a life of prayer and fasting. And it's interesting how the scripture says this kind does not come out by prayer and fasting. So we don't know what kind of demon it was. Jesus didn't tell us. But clearly there was demonic possession involved with this child. Now with that being said, I do not believe that the vast majority of those with epilepsy or seizures are demonically possessed. In fact, I would say relatively few, because I certainly don't know the answer to that. But what I do know is that I've met multiple people with seizures and epilepsy. I've seen multiple people do various things for their health and have no more issues with epilepsy and seizure. Because there is this aspect that I talk about in my classes all the time of understanding God from a design perspective of natural created order. That the body's designed a certain way, the brain's designed to work a certain way, the electrical impulses are designed a certain way. Well, you eat lots of junk food, you get heavy metals in your mouth from fillings, you get parasites in your body, all these things we're going to go through. It can affect the way your body functions. It can affect the way the electrical activity in your body functions. I read this story of this person who, I can't even remember what it was, but they ate something and it got stuck in their throat and they didn't even know it, or they thought it cleared, and they started having epilepsy, they started having seizures, went into the doctor, they found this piece of food stuck in the throat, they got rid of it, and the person didn't have seizures anymore. It's a crazy story, but there's all kinds of reasons that things get into the vessel that God designed that cause it to, that cause dysfunction or malfunction. So I did want to share that yes, it can be spiritual, but the vast majority of it, especially the afflictions that people are suffering with today, Christians need to understand that it is a result of genetic weaknesses and improper lifestyle, of our bodies being congested and toxic and not functioning properly because of what's going on in our physical bodies, because of all the things we've done to our body over the years with food and drugs, etc. So, symptoms. Main two types of epilepsy, petit mal and grand mal. So, petit mal, it's less serious. Attack can come and go in a few seconds. They have a momentary loss of consciousness and usually don't have any convulsions, but maybe some rigidity, maybe a little jerk or movement of the eyes, but they don't usually lose consciousness. May stop what they're doing and then resume when the attack is over without even really being aware of what happened. I've met people, I met a young man one time that I worked with for a couple of years who he had 30, 40 of these a day, this petit mal seizures. And so he was just in and out all the time and just not even recognizing what was happening. But you'd be talking to him and it would just be blank. And then 30 seconds later, he'd pick up like nothing happened. So that's a petit mal. The grand mal is more serious, more dramatic, violent contractions, arms, legs, body, loss of consciousness oftentimes. They have usually a warning sign first, like an aura. It's kind of like when you get a migraine, you get that aura sensation. It's that kind of aura sensation. Some people feel like there's air or water flowing over them. They see flashes of light. They hear noises. This can often last several minutes, and there's usually a deep sleep following a grand mal seizure. Waking up, they might remember nothing again. They might not remember anything that even happened to them. And then what's interesting about epilepsy is usually people who suffer with this, other than the fits, everything else is normal. They're smart people. They do great, smart things. Nothing else seems to be wrong in life, but then they have these fits. And oftentimes they'll learn that there's different things that can trigger attacks, and so we kind of want to go through some of those things too. But between attacks, the brain seemingly functions normally. Rarely does an epileptic know their exact cause or like the root cause. Sometimes they might know things that can seem to trigger it more, but they don't often know their root cause. This is why anti-convulsant drugs are so popular. So anti-convulsant drugs have been around, since the early 1900s, 1920s, 1930s, and they're beneficial. It's hard for me because I'm very anti-drug because I want everybody to get off the pharmaceutical drugs and get onto the way God designed us, free, for freedom, not needing drugs, not needing anything, but just the life of God to sustain us. But clearly the anticonvulsant drugs help people from having these seizures and save people's lives, and I can see why they're popular. But again, this is why you don't want to be reliant on them if you can't get them or don't have access to them or can't afford them, again, if and when things change in the world. So the issue with them is that at best, they're managing your symptoms. They're actually suppressing and numbing the nervous system and the neurons from firing in the brain. So it's kind of like, when people have autoimmune disease, they give people immunosuppressant drugs. Oh, well, you have an autoimmune disorder, we're going to purposefully and intentionally weaken your immune system, and that's our answer for helping you. It's kind of counterintuitive. It doesn't really make sense, but that's how they do it. And so this is kind of the same thing. The nervous system's not working right. The electrical impulses aren't working right, so we're going to give you a drug that trips or numbs or affects some part of the nervous system so that the brain can't fire properly. So therefore, if you do that, okay, but you never learn the underlying reason why you're having the seizures. And therefore, you never get freedom. You live on anticonvulsant drugs, and people have lived on these drugs for 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, their whole life. So drugs act as a nervous system depressant in this case. They block sodium or calcium channels in the brain because sodium and calcium channels have a lot to do with electrical impulses in the brain. The risk of seizure damage is great, and so most people don't feel like they have an alternative to an anticonvulsant drug. There's a lot of research on something called GABA. It's called gamma aminobutyric acid. It's a neurotransmitter involved in regulating communication between brain cells. And so GABA is really important for the neurotransmitters to communicate in the brain. And so what they found is that if they do things that stimulate or increase GABA in the brain, it will stop seizures. And there's even medications related to this. But again, why is there a GABA deficiency? Or again, what's the root cause of what's causing the seizures? I just want to give that as an example of the GABA. So I tend to simplify things sometimes, even though they don't seem simple when you're suffering and struggling and taking drugs and it really affects your life. But I believe it's just that simple, that there's some kind of a toxicity or something in the body that's inhibiting normal function of the body. And if you want to talk spiritual and you want to talk demons, then that's something affecting the normal function of God's design in the human body. I will call a demon a toxin. Can I call a demon a toxin? Is that okay? A demon's a toxin, okay? But so is mercury, and so is aluminum, and so is soda pop. So many things that we put in our body and do to our bodies. And so what's really tough about this is that when people have seizures, it affects their life. I heard a story of a gal who, she had seizures, that was part of her life, and she was surfing and she had a seizure, and she almost drowned. Luckily somebody on shore saw that she was struggling, went out, saved her life. But you can't do normal activities for fear of when you might have an episode. You always got to let somebody know where you're at. You don't want to be in the middle of the ocean by yourself, because you just never know when it might happen. So so that affects the mind, the mood, the emotions, depression, anxiety, fear, worry. All of these things, this can consume this person's life. So if there are answers, which I know there are, we want to find what those answers are, and we always want to talk to God about it. I love people listening to my classes, and I hope I have some wisdom in it, but ultimately God has the answers to whatever your ailment is. It's just figuring out what it is and talking to him about it. So I'm going to give you a few ideas of some things that lead to epilepsy. One is the gut, its digestion. So you might have heard this gut-brain connection. It's pretty simple. Everything that goes into our body goes into our gut, goes into our intestinal tract, and that's what feeds our brain. How can we not think that the food we put in the body that God designed doesn't affect every single part of the body of the organism? How do you think my little toe works? It's through what I eat. How do you think my eyes work? How do you think our brain works? How do you think our thyroid works? It all starts with what we do or don't put into our body. Are we putting in the things of God into our body, or are we putting in man-made things into our body? And so everything starts with the gut. And so the brain, just like the gut, has nerves that connect it to the entire rest of the body. So we have a central nervous system, right? Brain and spinal cord. This is why chiropractors are popular, because you can get adjusted and things can heal. If the spine gets in alignment, parts of the body can heal because of nerves. Well, the gut also has nerves that go to every single part of the human body. Every single part of the human body. The intestinal tract is actually the first thing that's formed in the womb when you conceive a child, and everything buds off of the intestinal tract. And so it's really important for your brain and neurons and neurotransmitters and electrical impulses that go to the brain be fed by the gut. So does soda pop and Doritos and Cheetos and Twizzlers and gummy bears and goldfish and, should I stop? I'm just playing around. I'm just thinking of all the things I loved when growing up. Do these things feed the brain and the nerves and the nervous system? Of course not. Now, we don't maybe think much of it because maybe we had strong genetics, or maybe it hasn't affected us yet, or whatever, but when we get sick or we have issues, we will do anything to figure out what is going on and what has gone wrong. So I encourage people to start working on their health now. Don't wait till there's a problem. That's how most of us get into health, because we just thought, hey, God made this world for us. Let's just do what we want, have fun, giant playground. And we kind of realized that that's not the case. God actually really cares about how we live and how we steward our lives, and choosing Him and the things that He's given us, and not man-made things. So the gut-brain connection is really important. You got to feed your brain with nourishing things. And we know that autism, and we know that Alzheimer's, and we know that so many of these issues are linked to a healthy gut. People are seeing results with Alzheimer's or autism or epilepsy or anything related to the brain, are seeing results through nutrition. So that is really crucial. What often happens is people get food allergies, they get food sensitivities. We have a damaged gut. We have food getting into the gut that gets undigested. It doesn't get processed properly. It leaks out into the rest of the body. It affects the brain, different organisms. Different organs. I can actually see it in the eye. I can see leaky gut in the eye. They're called radial furrows that stem out from the pupil into the eye. And you can see when people eat food, it passes through their gut lining and affects different parts of the body. Oftentimes the area of the brain and the sinus. And so why are people getting away from gluten? Why are people getting away from dairy, corn, soy, so many things that people have allergic reactions to? Because it's going through the system undigested. The body's damaged, it's congested, the gut's damaged, and these undigested protein molecules are triggering autoimmune diseases and seizures. I was reading some testimonies online of some people with epilepsy, just preparing for the class and just what people did. And one gal suffered for years, took gluten out of her diet and started doing magnesium baths and has never had an issue since. And she's like, it's just amazing sometimes how it can be something pretty simple. And so that's one of the challenges of any health issue, is that you don't know the reason. Everyone wants to know the reason, right? Why do I have this so I can fix it? And again, this is why pharmaceutical drugs are so important, because they don't have a clue either, but they know they can give you something that'll affect your system in a way that'll stop that reaction. And so it is a challenge in figuring out what it is. So you kind of need to embrace multiple things, but I really do feel like if we align with God in these different areas, that they will stop, and we don't need to be on the medications anymore. So that's gut digestion. I just kind of want to touch on that briefly. The next one I'm going to say is parasites. Also read many, many, many testimonials of people who had seizures, who did a parasite cleanse, the seizure stopped, again, never had a problem since. So parasites, viruses, you've heard of people getting viruses, getting really high fevers triggering seizures, right? So mold, yeast, fungus, candida, any type of infectious organism or overgrowth in the body will secrete waste and acids and poisons into the bloodstream, which again will affect the ability of the body to function the way it was designed to function. So it can affect brain function and neurotransmitter function and everything that we're talking about. So if you get rid of the parasites, you cut down on the waste that's being excreted in the body by the infectious organism, and things start to work again. So if you see a theme here, what we'll talk about is it's getting out of the body what's interfering with the body to function right. So whether that thing is a poor diet, or maybe even you think it's a healthy diet, but your body's damaged, so you can't handle whole grains, you can't handle corn, you can't handle like even what normally we should be able to handle. It's interfering. So we need to remove the let's simplify it. Remove the interference. Remove the interference and we won't have seizures and epilepsy anymore. I'd say that's 95% of it. The other 5% of it might be a magnesium deficiency, or minerals, or something that helps with the function of the brain. So that does play a role, but it's mainly getting the interference out that's going to cure somebody of epilepsy long term. So parasites, fungus, viruses, all of that. Alcohol and alcoholism is a big link with seizures. Again, sugar, it would fit the sugar category. So that's damaging the liver, damaging the nerves and the nervous system, and it's going to affect brain function. Any drug, heavy drug, of course, cocaine, any kind of narcotic is linked with seizures. Heavy metal toxicity. So this is a big one with autism. It's a big one with Alzheimer's. It's a big one with dementia, all different kinds of brain-related disorders, and of course it's a big one with epilepsy too, is they find heavy metals in the brain. And heavy metals aren't supposed to be in the brain. Metals in general aren't supposed to be in the body in large amounts. We have trace amounts of metals in our body. We have a little bit of arsenic in our body, and we have aluminum in our body, and people kind of freak out. We even have gold in our body. How cool is that? We have these minerals in our body because they're part of the earth, they're part of God's design, they're part of creation, they're in plants, but they're in plants in a perfect ratio. And so when you eat foods, I'm not worried if I get a little aluminum in my green smoothie. Everybody freaks out about aluminum, but it's not aluminum from plants that's caused a problem. Aluminum pots, aluminum pans, aluminum foil. I mean, I grew up with this. I mean, who didn't grow up with aluminum everything, right? And so when I do hair analysis of people, I never see anybody come back without aluminum. Everybody's got aluminum. Now, whether it's causing a problem or not, who knows? But it's there. But I would say the biggest one, and everybody knows it now, still a few dentists that deny it because they're still persuaded by the ADA, but mercury, one of the most poisonous things you can put in the human body. And we put it in our fillings. And they lied to people. Well, they didn't lie to people. They deceived people, and they called them silver fillings, but it was really 50+% mercury. And so if you have any fillings in your mouth, if you have any metal in your mouth, it should not be there. I don't care if it's a crown or a bridge or a filling or whatever it is. Metal should not be in the mouth. And don't freak out, but you do want to find a holistic dentist. Ideally, get metal out of your mouth. I only had 2 or 3. I mean, my gosh, I grew up eating junk, and I only had 2 or 3 fillings. I don't know how that happened. My wife's got like 8, 10. She got them all removed. First of all, she was, well, I don't want to get into that story, but she was not told the truth, and a dentist made money off of her, sadly, and destroyed her mouth and spent thousands of dollars on getting her a bunch of fillings and stuff into her mouth that she didn't need to have done. It's just there's so many wicked people out there. But then she learned about mercury. She got it all taken out. We got married. Our first daughter has lots of mercury. It passed on to our firstborn. So it's really sad. So we have to work on purifying her vessel. Things are getting into her body that God did not design to be in her body in those amounts because of choices and things that other people have done in the name of health or medicine or dentistry or whatever you want to call it. So the lab I work with is called Quicksilver Labs. They're out of Colorado. I do a mercury test. It actually checks your saliva, blood, and hair for mercury in different forms, because there's different forms of mercury. There's organic and inorganic and methyl mercury, and they deposit in different parts of the body, and they're excreted different ways throughout the body. And they also have a blood metals panel where you can check other metals. Instead of just mercury, you can check a bunch of other metals too to see if you have any other metal toxicity. And so detoxing heavy metals is a big deal for a lot of people. Big deal. Just to give you one story real quick, there's a doctor here, I won't name his name, but there's a doctor here in Kansas City who had a practice, a mercury-free dentistry practice, and he got mercury poisoning in dental school. Now here's the kicker, he didn't know it. He was in dental school playing with mercury, doing fillings. He got it at dental school. He was sick. He didn't know why he was sick. He was developing all these health issues. He started his business, was doing dentistry. Finally, it got so bad, he started going to different doctors around the country. Went to a guy in Texas and said, "You have mercury poisoning." And he had every symptom of mercury poisoning. It turned out he got it in dental school playing with mercury. And so guess what? He went on a crusade to tell people the truth about the dangers of mercury in dental fillings. And he had a mercury-free practice, and it's a real thing. And so people start to get pain and tingling down their arms. I had a gal one time that I did a hair mineral analysis on. It was a young girl, she was 10, I think, and she had excruciating leg pain. She could hardly even sleep at night. Her leg pain was so bad. And we couldn't figure it out. We tried minerals, we tried all these different things, nothing worked. We did a hair analysis. Her cadmium levels were super high. Now, where'd she get cadmium poisoning? I don't know. It's in batteries and car exhaust, and I know, who knows. But so she did some metal detox stuff, and it went away. So the heavy metal thing is real. And so you might have them, and they might have zero effect on your body whatsoever, because again, God's design is good in spite of what we do to it. He's always trying to help us and save us and protect us and deposit things where they have they'll do the least harm. But if there's an opportunity for it to get out, we should get it out, because it can affect us long term. So the heavy metal thing definitely linked to seizures. Adrenals and blood sugars. So the adrenal glands, these little walnut-sized organs that sit on top of the kidneys, they play a huge role in controlling the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, which is the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. This is what produces adrenaline, so that we get up and go, and various other hormones. So the adrenal glands also play a role in metabolizing and utilizing sugar. And sugar in the body is what feeds the body and feeds the brain. And so we need to keep the adrenals healthy. And I have seen a lot of success here working with people with various issues, working on the adrenals. But I did have a couple of people I can think of specifically that working with the adrenals. Well, actually, the young guy I told you about that was having the multiple petit mal ones throughout the day, working on his adrenals, that all completely went away. And so things that heal the nerves and the nervous system are going to help with epilepsy. And the adrenals playing a huge role by producing these hormones that are stimulant, sometimes hormones. If you have those healthier, you'll have a healthier body. And so when I talk about diet, I'll talk about the difference in the sugars, because that's really important, especially with this issue. I'm going to mention caffeine, processed sugar, and any stimulant is going to be a trigger. It's absolutely going to be a trigger. Why? Because we're talking about the nerves and the nervous system and electrical impulses. I just have to keep repeating that, because you have to understand what you're putting in your body. How's it affecting your body? How's caffeine affecting your body? Well, it's stimulating your adrenal glands to produce adrenaline because of the caffeine. So it gives you energy and makes you feel good. Long term, it's certainly not good for our health, but it's a stimulant. Sugar is a stimulant. Red Bull and Monster Energy drinks and all that stuff are stimulants. So all those things are going to stimulate the adrenals, stimulate the nervous system, and those will often trigger attacks. And anybody who's dealt with these issues probably knows that already, so that's not necessarily new information, but it could be for somebody. And then I did list nutrient deficiencies as well. Magnesium being the biggest one that a lot of people see huge results in replenishing magnesium to help with, just calming a child, just calming yourself, just turning your busy brain off at the end of the night. Magnesium is incredibly beneficial for just relaxing the nerves and the muscles in the body. Calcium and any of the other electrolytes. Sodium would play a huge role too. People have had a lot of results with salt intake helping with seizures as well, because of the role that minerals play in nerve function. The way I like to think of it is the body is like an ocean of electrical activity. Think of an ocean. Is there electricity under the ocean? Have you ever seen an electric eel? It's a pretty cool little creature. But your body's like an ocean of electrical activity. And so everything works through this ocean of fluids. And what makes things fire and what makes the cells communicate is various things, but the main thing is minerals. That's why they call them electrolyte minerals, like electricity, electrolytes. Calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium. This is why people replace them when they're exercising or sweating, or construction workers or UPS drivers. You better be replacing those electrolyte minerals, because you're going to cramp, or you're going to get tired because you're sweating and you're losing minerals. So that's a huge part of this component of helping the brain to work right. All right, so the solutions. I'm going to go through the list that I gave you guys, just because I think that's fun. And I don't usually do that. It's a 10-step protocol, and of course you see I have 15 things, but that's just how I normally do it. Number one, nutrition is everything. It's absolutely everything, because you're either working with God's design in the body or you're working against it. Even if some nutritional component isn't the root cause of it, because say you have mercury poisoning, nutrition is going to help you, because nutrition is going to help you get the mercury out of your body. Nutrition is going to help you get parasites out of your body. Nutrition is going to either help or hinder your efforts. And so nutrition has to be the first thing. And that's why people, again, who are having success with children with autism or other health conditions, or adults with health issues, are all focusing on nutrition. And this is why people are turning away from the medical system and just the Band-Aid approach, and turning to healing the body through nutrition. So food's going to affect the body because it goes into the gut. There's nerves there. Think of it this way, like, I'm fascinated by how God designed the body. I mean, if you think of what goes into the body, what the body really needs to sustain itself is little tiny itty-bitty microscopic particles and molecules of things that only should be allowed through the gut lining into the blood vessels. Everything else is just waste. It just passes out. So what we need for health, this is true for epilepsy, this is anything. We need high, dense nutrition with very little effort on the human body. And what have we done in our culture? The opposite. High quantities of food with very little nutritional value. And we wonder why we've created a culture of sickness and disease. And so that's just a simple truth that people need to understand. No matter where you're at with your health, no matter what you want to improve, you start eating high, dense, nutritious foods in small proportions, only allowing the things into the bloodstream that the body needs and get rid of all that other heavy stuff, you're going to see vast improvement in your health. And so the easiest way to do that is to go raw fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, healthy fats, chia, flax, olive, avocado, hemp seeds. I just listed some of them. Juicing is one of the best things you can do for epilepsy because you are getting high nutrition that's immediately available to your bloodstream and your entire body, therefore your brain, right? And it doesn't take effort by the body to use juice. And what are you getting? You're getting vitamins, you're getting minerals, you're getting electrolytes. I highlighted celery because it's really high in sodium. And it's one of the only fruit or vegetable sources that does contain decent amounts of sodium. And so celery is really good for the brain and for neurotransmitters, but also all leafy greens are going to do that. All leafy greens are high in what? Calcium and magnesium. So if you blend celery with leafy greens and then maybe throw in something that's high in potassium, I don't know, kiwi or a banana or something, I mean, you can easily get all these minerals and things you need immediately into our body with very little digestive effort on the body. And the reason I say that is because if anybody has epilepsy, most people have come to realize with these issues that you can't eat whatever you want. You can't eat a heavy diet. If you overeat, if you do stimulants, if you eat foods that are common allergenic foods, you have more seizures. Just seen that. And so this is a good way to do it. I also highlighted lemons and limes because they're very also high in electrolyte minerals. Apple cider vinegar would be another thing that's very high in minerals. So juices, smoothies, salads, keeping it light, it's going to be really beneficial. I did put if doing the raw thing is too much too fast because it's a process, it's a transition. The body ecology diet I really like. I really like the body ecology diet because it takes out grains and sugar and dairy, a lot of the common things that are causing issues with people. It eliminates those allergenic foods. It's actually designed to help people eat in a way that does not feed systemic infection, to not feed candida, yeast, fungus, parasites, etc. And thousands, I would say tens of thousands of people have benefited from Donna Gates's program from the body ecology diet. It's been around at least a decade. I don't know how long, but lots and lots of people have benefited from her teachings in her book. So I do like that program. But if you want to get better faster, I always tell people it's easiest just to go clean and to go with fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, healthy fats. Just kind of keep it simple. Hydration and minerals. So we want to avoid things that are dehydrating and stimulating. So coffee would be a no-brainer because it's dehydrating and it's stimulating. I know there's like 101 articles out there about why coffee's bad for you, and then there's another 100 that says coffee's great for you. So you know what? You discern for yourself. I mean, we're in the information age. We need to talk to Jesus more and not read a bazillion articles. That's just my opinion. But how do you know if it's good for you or not? Well, it depends on you. It depends on where you're at, and you need to experience things for yourself. But I will say, just as a general rule of thumb, if you're working on healing your glandular system, your thyroid, your adrenals, if you're working on your nerves, your nervous system, anything like this, you do not want to do caffeine. I don't care how healthy your coffee is. You don't want to do stimulants because it's going to interfere with how your nervous system is supposed to work. So, soda pop, obviously, really just want to stick to water or teas. And when I say tea, not green tea, not black tea, not stimulants. You really want to do herbals. herbals. Now, if you do a little bit of green tea, okay, maybe it's not a big deal. It's a lot less caffeine than coffee. But there's plenty of herbal teas. You don't have to drink caffeine. There's hundreds of plants that God gave us that are caffeine-free. There's actually very, very few that have caffeine. It's just the main ones that we choose a lot of times. So for hydration, I just list some things. I like the negatively ionized water. They have the water machines for that. We use the one from Valara. Himalayan pink salt in water. If people are sodium deficient, which believe it or not, people are salt deficient, you can do the celery juice, or you can add the pink salt into your water and just drink a little teaspoon of that every morning when you wake up, and that'll give your body a lot of good electrolyte minerals. I would say one of my favorite things since I started this journey 7 years ago in this little hole office that I was in, one of the first things I started working with giving people is the magnesium oil and doing foot soaks in the magnesium oil. And it is probably the number one thing that I've heard the most testimonies and people getting excited about, and just how they've benefited from the magnesium oil foot soaks. Because like I said, it calms and relaxes the body, the nerves, the muscles, and people feel healing results from it. If you read online, just look at epilepsy and magnesium, or how, Google stuff, whatever. You hear I'm saying talk to the Lord, now I'm telling you to Google stuff. But you will see all kinds of testimonials out there about magnesium and how it stopped or greatly diminished or decreased seizures or various other health issues. So the magnesium is a pretty big deal, and you can do the Calm, which is the powdered magnesium, but the best source of magnesium, hands down, is magnesium chloride. Magnesium chloride is the form you want that's the most absorbable, the most utilized by the body, and you'll get the best results from. And the best way to do that is through a foot soak. You get a little plastic foot tub, add just some warm water to cover your toes, add about 2 ounces or a quarter cup of magnesium oil, and just soak in it. Just sucks it up through your feet, restores magnesium to the cells of the body, to the adrenals, blood pressure. It's amazing. Any cardiovascular issue, you could just go on forever. So magnesium is really super important. Getting outside, just fresh air, sunshine. Big fan of sun for healing and restoring human health. It's good for the eyes, it's good for the adrenals, it's good for the nerves and the nervous system. Just getting in nature in general. Being in the presence of God. I tell people this all the time for anxiety. And so it wouldn't be any different for seizures, is that spending time with God, spending time in nature, spending time barefoot connected to the earth. People don't do these studies. I would love to see a study done of people who have epilepsy that for a month they live on a farm and they walk around barefoot all day on the earth, and they live in nature, maybe in a tent or something. I'd be curious to see what happens with their seizures. From what I know and understand of God's creation and design, is that they probably would go away or greatly diminish. Again, it would depend on the root cause of what's happening. But connecting to God through nature, connecting to the Earth's energy field, which is a flow of negative ions, which is very healing to the body, which isn't a weird concept. It's God's creation of the world concept. Standing barefoot on the earth is healing. If people have insomnia, I always tell them, go camping, go sleep on a beach somewhere. You will sleep better than you've ever slept in your whole life. I just had a couple that I know, I won't say who they are, but they just flew to Taiwan, and I said, when you get off the plane, find some grass or some earth or some dirt, take your shoes off, stand on it, and you won't have jet lag. And they just emailed me and they said, it worked. I can't believe it. It was amazing. I see some people are excited about that. So it worked. Okay, praise God. Another testimony. So your body was fashioned, let's think of this biblically. Your body was fashioned out of the earth. It's designed to be connected to God's creation, not what we're doing in here. It's designed to be connected to God's creation. And so when you travel somewhere, you have to reconnect to the earth, which resets your body clock. It resets your circadian rhythm. It tells you where you're at. So, did I get off on a tangent? Oh, I was talking about getting out. Was it a good tangent? Okay. So I was talking about getting outside, connecting to God, to connecting to nature, and we've lost that. We've lost that through our rubber-soled shoes and through our various plastics and things we've created that have disconnected us from God. So really getting outside, getting in water, getting in a stream, getting connected to the earth will greatly relax your nervous system and help you to heal from seizures and epilepsy. Okay, do a parasite cleanse. Again, many people have been set free from doing parasite cleanses because of the toxic load that's created on the body from infectious issues. Now, I highlighted parasites, but I would again also mention mold, fungus, yeast, bacteria, mycotoxins, viral issues. All of these can cause major damage in the body. That's why we have to have strong immune systems. So I have a cleanse called the microbe cleanse. I encourage people to check that out to heal their body of infections. That covers mold, yeast, fungus, bacteria, viruses, and parasites all in one. It's called the microbe cleanse. Or you can do a parasite cleanse. I have one by Dr. Hulda Clark. There's a 3-part cleanse and a 7-part cleanse. Get checked for heavy metals. Aluminum, cadmium, mercury, arsenic, lead. And we all know what happened with lead and lead paint and children chewing on the cribs and getting lead poisoning. Was it my wife's aunt? I might get that wrong. It was somebody in my wife's side of the family who died from lead in makeup.
Wow.
They still put lead in makeup today. So there's all kinds of toxins and poisons that we're putting on our body and in our body. So again, when we get Parkinson's or autism or some nerve-related disorder, what do we think is happening? Where do we think God is? Do we think he's a bad creator or a bad designer? We have made choices in our world, and maybe not just the choices we've made. People have made choices that affect our health and our bodies. And that's why we have to choose things of God, whether it's our food, whether it's our cosmetics, whether it's our cleaning supplies, what movies and shows we watch. I mean, we have to choose the things of God. And we have to steward our bodies when we have to do it for our children, because we're seeing sick children suffering with these issues because of choices of humanity, which are poor choices for the most part. So check heavy metals. I do you can do a hair mineral analysis. I did that for years. I really like the mercury tri-test because it's more in-depth. It checks it 3 different ways. And you can check for other metals as well. Number 7 is detox. So this is the purity of the vessel. This is the cleansing of the holy temple. This is the main reason we're suffering with sickness and disease today. Epilepsy, no matter what it is, it's the impurities that have gotten into or been allowed into God's created vessel. And so we have to cleanse. And it's just so ironic to me that not only the medical community has not yet embraced nutrition fully, yet they're starting to talk about it a little bit. They completely snafu cleansing as some horrible, weird, dangerous thing. And so if you can look at the opposite of what they say, you'll find truth most of the time. And so the single most important thing you can do for your body, for your health, for your longevity, to not fear sickness and disease, to reverse sickness and disease in anybody you know, family or friend, is you need to learn how to cleanse. That's where it's at. And so if you can remove chemicals and toxins and poisons from the body, then it will start to function the way God designed it to function. There won't be any short-circuiting anymore. This is a short-circuit problem. Think again, soda pop on a keyboard, short circuit. So bentonite clay pulls toxins from the body. You can do that in liquid form. I just gave an example of a couple products I use. Oh, I had show and tell. I didn't even show you. Here's magnesium oil. So I probably missed some of this stuff already, but that's okay. The metal-free is a formula you can spray under the tongue that pulls heavy metals out of the body by weight, based on the periodic table. Then there's one called Toxin Therapy by Harmonic Enterprises. That's a blend of chlorella and cilantro, which are well known to pull metals and chemicals from the body. And then there's a product called Toxipurge by North American Herb & Spice. These are ones that I've just used for various uses over years with people. Just anything to start pulling toxins and waste out of the body. So if you can couple good nutrition with products that pull, cleanse, and heal things out of the body, you'll get amazing results. What people do is they have one piece of the puzzle and they don't want to adopt the other pieces of the puzzle. They take all the best supplements, hoping it'll fix all their problems, but they don't change their diet. Or they change their diet and believe in nutrition, but they don't believe in exercise because they just don't have time. Or the fun one, we exercise our tails off for an hour plus a day to lose weight, but we don't change our diet, right? I mean, how many of us have done that? So you have to put the pieces of the puzzle together. This is so, so important. But cleansing is a key piece of the puzzle. Number 8, working on the adrenal glands, because again, they play a role in controlling the nervous system. Great adapter. So Chinese adaptogenic tonic herbs are awesome for balancing and restoring the adrenal glands. So we're talking Chinese tonic herbs like schisandra berries and ashwagandha and astragalus and licorice root and all the ginsengs. The ginsengs can be a little stimulating for some people, so we have to watch the ginsengs. But all of those Chinese tonic herbs in general heal the body. They promote healing to the body. The Chinese philosophy of medicine, they do not stimulate like we do here in America. Our fix for anything is caffeine or a sugar rush or coffee or a drug. And there they use nutrition and they use herbs that bring balance and restoration and health to the body. So that's why I like the Great Adapter by Jing Herbs. I also like deer antler. Deer antler is very healing to the nervous system and very healing to the adrenal glands. And it's a great product. I've used that for a lot with people as well. And then I mentioned the earthing sheet. I should have probably talked about that when I talked about connecting to the earth, connecting to God, so I'll mention it real quick. There is technology, I should say, that brings earthing into the home. So there's bed sheets you can lay on, there's earthing mats, and they connect to the third prong of your outlet. So the third prong is the ground wire, which literally has a wire connected to the earth, right? And so what you do is you plug this mat or sheet into that third prong, and so you have a wire, you have a flow. It's not electricity, but you have a flow of energy from the earth into this bed sheet through the metal fibers that are woven in there, and it's like being connected to the earth. And so I've sold these for years. People sleep on them. Dogs and cats like them because they instinctually like to be connected to the earth, so a lot of times they'll lay on them and won't get off. They have mats you can put under your computer because it also sets off EMFs. So all the electromagnetic frequencies from cell phones and laptops, it will balance those. It will offset those. And so that's a way to bring the earth into the home, for an example. I would love to see a community go back to living off of the earth, even if it's like we did in basic days, settler days, Little House on the Prairie days. You know, we were outside all the time and having farms and things like that. But until we get there, which isn't going to come until hard times come, so we can use these earthing sheets because they do work and they've helped a lot of people with sleep and a lot of different issues. We have them here, yep. So magnesium I already talked about. I won't go over that again. Take B vitamins. So B vitamins, really important for the nerves and the nervous system. It feeds the nervous system. If you have poor gut health, poor digestion, you might benefit from taking a B vitamin supplement. So that is also going to heal and nourish the nervous system. Natural anti-spasm herbs. I'm going to give you a few examples of some things you can take that will reduce, decrease, if not eliminate, seizures. And they're natural things that God gave us. So God has an alternative for anything that the medical community has. We know the problem with the medical community is they force an action on the body and they have a bunch of side effects. And so the danger, again, with antispasmatics is you don't actually ever get to the root of why you're having the seizures, which is clearly an imbalance issue in the body, and so that your health's going to continue to get worse while you just take the drug to manage it. So we want to heal the body. We want to see people fully healed. And so what can calm down and relax the nervous system is something called CBD oil, which is hemp oil, which has nutrients in it that calm and relax the nervous system. better than anything I've ever seen. I've seen people with major stress and major anxiety benefit from these greatly. I have seen people with pain and inflammation conditions benefit from this greatly. I will give you just 2 quick examples. There was a gal who is having major health issues, who is having seizures daily for a week straight. And they had just started, and so they hadn't gone to the doctor, they hadn't done the antispasmodic drugs. We gave her the CBD oil. They literally stopped at that moment. Under the tongue, or we have a capsule form of it. There's another gal that I've worked with for years who we've worked with seizures, and she had, we worked on diet, we worked on adrenals, we worked on all these things we're talking about. Her seizures would get less and less and less and less and less, and she'd be in a pretty good place as long as she's doing the right things. And she was having multiple, she'd have grand mals and petite mals in the same day. And so it got down to where it was just a few petite mals during the day. So like we saw continued improvement over time. Same thing, gave the CBD oil, they stopped. Went and got a job for the first time in years. Because again, when people have seizures, they sometimes can't have a job. They can't, go hiking. They can't do things that they would normally do for concern of when they might have an attack or an episode. So it's a big deal. So the CBD oil is very, very amazing. This is, there's kind of a, I don't know what's going to happen with hemp because hemp's legal in America. Marijuana is illegal. More so from what I believe is because of the effect that marijuana has on the body as far as THC and getting people high. That doesn't happen with the hemp, with the CBD oil, but it has all the healing benefits. And so it's really popular right now. There are lots of beliefs in the works that the FDA is going to try to take control of these plants and call them drugs because they have such a profound healing effect on the body. And there probably will be a revolution in America if that happens. But we'll see. We'll see how that happens. We'll see how that goes down. The other thing I wanted to mention is a couple products by Dr. Morse, and these are herbal products that you can use in conjunction to heal the nerves, the nervous system, and to reduce the frequency of the seizures. One is called Spasm Calm, and one is called Brain and Nervous System Tonic 2. And so the Spasm Calm, somebody can do as much as every 3 hours to keep from having seizures. Now, one thing with these 2 products is they're alcohol-based. And alcohol can be a problem for a lot of people, can be a stimulant for a lot of people. And so what you'd need to do is boil some water and then add the herbs to the water, and it will evaporate off all the alcohol. And that way you can still do the herbs. Now, most people will be fine with them, but a lot of people will have issues with alcohol. That's a good way to burn off the alcohol. So the Spasm Calm are herbs that are called nervine herbs. I actually have it right here. Just so you know what nervine herbs are that calm and relax the body are. Wild lettuce, passion flower, St. John's wort, lobelia, valerian, cramp bark, catnip, and it's got a little cayenne in it for circulation. It's a pretty strong nervous system product. Now this is called Brain and Nervous System Tonic 2. It has, it's kind of hard to read, Gotu kola leaf, skullcap, ginkgo biloba, schisandra berry, astragalus, butcher's broom, cayenne. These are mostly herbs that are really, really, really good for promoting circulation in the body. So what are we doing here? We're relaxing the nervous system. We're increasing blood flow and circulation in the upper part of the body and in the brain area. And that's going to help the body to function right. That's going to help neurotransmitters to function right. That's going to help electrical impulses to work right. And if we can get the poor diets and the excessive amounts of food and that stuff out of our way, the body will start to flow in rhythm with the way God designed it, because the flow of the human body works through blood. So it all comes down to healthy blood. Number 13, I put you could try GABA, because you can buy it at a health food store. There's a drug called gabapentin, which is extremely dangerous, extremely hard to get off of, has a laundry list of side effects, negative side effects. But it's you can't take a natural substance and patent it. So what they do is they take some natural things and they combine them with chemicals. And so it has an effect on the body, but it has all the side effects. And so you can buy some of these forms in natural forms, and it could potentially be helpful. Find peace, number 14. Jesus is the Prince of Peace. That's one of his names, right? Pray, meditate on Scripture, spend time in nature with God, go on walks, fresh air, sunshine, declutter your life. How about declutter our brains? I mean, we're all so busy and we got our to-do list a mile long and we're stressed out and we don't know how we're going to get it all done. So there's some trust that needs to happen with the Lord. Let go of material objects. It's really important. I don't say that just kind of haphazardly, because if we're talking about the nerves and the nervous system and keeping the nervous system relaxed so that you don't have a trigger or an episode. I mean, think about people with anxiety. They're triggered by moments of anxiety. They're triggered by occurrences, life occurrences. And so it's really important to stay calm and to stay relaxed and to stay in the moment and stay present and be okay with where you're at and not worry about everything that needs to get done. And there's lots of scriptures about not worrying, right? So number 15, the last one I put is try the castor oil packs by Heritage. Castor oil, I made this up, but I call castor oil a tranquilizer dart to the nervous system. Completely relaxes the nervous system. In Latin, it's palma Christi, which is palm of Christ, is the Latin name of castor oil, which they named in the, 1400s, 1500s, whenever, but it had such a profound healing effect and healed so many people of so many ailments, they named it the palm of Christ. And they used it various ways, but topically is a main way they used it. So again, you relax the nervous system, you promote healing in the body. So you do herbs that relax the nervous system. You do, so I think I had like a summary of some good things to do. Yeah, I just said if you relax the nervous system with some of these herbs, the magnesium, spending time in nature, being at peace, good nutrition, again, taking the load off the body. There's all kinds of ways to do that, so I won't heavily get into nutrition, but let me just again say, minimum calories, maximum nutrition. So you do that through learning about superfoods. You do that through fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds. You learn that about spirulina and chlorella and greens and coconut and hemp seeds and all these powerful nutritious foods, as opposed to eating heavy meals full of like steak, baked potato, and apple pie for dessert that has lots of calories, lots of density with very little nutritional value. And again, that's why we're in the place we're in today. And so it's hard for me to get into conversations back and forth about what is this good for you, is that good for you. To get away from that, get away from the heaviness and start eating light and start doing juices and smoothies and salads and superfoods and just keeping it very light. And you'll see profound changes in your body and in your health. So if you combine those things together, again, putting the different pieces of the puzzle together, doing a heavy metal test, making sure you don't have heavy metal toxicity, just do the microbe cleanse. It's a 21-day cleanse, just in case you do have parasites or fungal overgrowth or something like that. I mean, children with autism get cleansed of yeast and fungus and autistic symptoms go away. So again, toxins in the human vessel, toxins in the body causing dysfunction in the way God designed us to function. And a lot of those issues are generational. A lot of those issues are because of other things that other people did because they put a mercury filling in our mouth. But we have to be the ones to change it, to take responsibility, to cleanse our bodies, to change our diet, to get the metals out. And if we have children, it's our responsibility as parents to help our children because they're helpless in these situations that they're suffering from. And we see children suffering from issues now that we never saw 2 generations ago. So it's not going to get better unless we reverse it, unless we heal it. If we don't heal the body and we just use antispasmodic drugs, again, you're reliant on it. You're reliant on the medical system. You're not finding out what's causing an imbalance in your body. God wants to fully connect with us through this flow of how he designed us, of the blood and the lymphatic system and electrical energy and quantum physics and all these things that God designed. So it will get worse, and drugs are an illusion of healing. So I say that with sensitivity in this subject because many people don't have alternatives and don't know alternatives and know that these drugs are helping them from having, especially if they're having grand mal seizures. It can be life-saving not to have seizures. So what I encourage you to do is embrace some of these things. Talk to God in your quiet time. What is He putting in your spirit that you need to do? I mean, I hear people all the time, oh, I just felt the Lord tell me I need to do a heavy metal test. I mean, the Lord talks to us. Do we not believe that God talks to us and wants to help us with these things? But we have to ask Him. So it might be nutrition, it might be a parasite cleanse, it might be heavy metals, it might be just little stepping stones or whatever it is. But find out what those things are. But regardless of how you do it, choose God. Choose the life-giving things of God, because He will restore our health. He will restore electrical flow to the body, and He will heal us if we align with His ways. Amen and amen.
Amen.
So, do you want to say your comment?
Oh, well, having dealt with epilepsy since I was 13 years old, so
Oh, wow.
for the last 16 and a half years of my life,
Wow.
I would have some comments on what you were sharing, but I don't need to go into that.
Well, we can talk about it after if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't want to say it publicly.
Anyway, right now, I am on, so my goal is to get off of government. I'm on disability, I hate it. $7.50 a month doesn't let me pay rent and buy healthy food. I have
Sure.
to buy craft food and
Right.
that's good food.
Right.
It's like, I was just helping me. I read that book, a friend lent it to me. That book is absolutely amazing.
Mhm.
And I've tried doing that, but it was just too expensive, so I
Right.
couldn't maintain it.
Right.
And so it's like, how am I supposed to work on these different things? Like, all of my family in Oregon and Washington and my mom, siblings, they're all, Emily, get on marijuana, you
Mhm.
know, this is the answer, blah, blah,
Right,
blah.
right.
And you're recommending CBD. I've been like, you know what, the Lord has said, not right now,
Mhm.
that because I disagree with them, and I've seen many testimonies of how marijuana has helped people with seizures. I've seen many testimonies of how it has hindered and
Mhm.
made seizures worse.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, I've basically tried pretty much everything and nothing has helped. I'm on by Lanton right now, and it is like, yeah, one of the
Mhm.
worst drugs I've taken, because I've taken pretty much all of them and
Yeah.
still have any seizures, like the one I had on Thursday. And
Wow. That's
so-
tough.
Anyway, yeah, so I just would love to talk more.
Yeah,
about
we can talk more about it. And yeah, just so you understand that hemp is not marijuana.
Okay.
So, they're different plants. So, I don't know if that makes a difference to you, but yeah, just so you know. Yeah.
I learned that I have high lead in my system.
Okay.
What is the best recommendation to detox?
For high lead,
Yeah.
you can do the clay, bentonite clay.
I did clay for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Until it was expensive.
Oh, okay. Because you can just do a liquid, like a tablespoon a day, and just mix it in something and
I did
not
that
really know
for
it's there. But
2 weeks.
okay, yeah, you would need to do it for a prolonged period of time.
Seems like enough.
Yeah.
Is there something?
The toxin therapy, I really like that one.
Toxin therapy.
Yep, by
Is that a liquid or?
it's a capsule.
Capsule.
Yep. And then the other one would be the metal-free, but the metal-free is going to pull things out of the body by atomic weight. I don't know where aluminum falls on the periodic table, but it might work on mercury first, or I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Heavy metals, if you look at the periodic table, there's
Oh,
there's differences based on weight. So I don't know where lead falls in that, but
okay.
yep.
And how long is it recommended to use it?
There's just no way to know. I don't know how much aluminum you
know
have.
it's there.
Yeah, the best thing to do is just make it a part of your lifestyle. So like cilantro, chlorella, which is part of the toxin therapy, clay, these kind of things, you can just make them part of your routine. And again, with nutritional changes or some fasting or whatever, your body will start to release these things. Yep. Yes?
Castor oil packs, you said find out how to do those. What do you do?
Well, there's a castor oil pack kit that has instructions in it.
Oh, it's-
It comes, yeah, it has a flannel, it has the castor oil, you soak the flannel, you put it on your abdomen, and you put a heating pad on top of it, and then the heat penetrates the oil into the nervous system. Yeah, I can explain that to you more, too, another time. Yeah. What's
Like
that?
a regular castor oil?
Yeah, castor oil.
The other
Yep.
thing, magnesium. I've been using in the bathtub just regular from the store. Is that wrong?
Well, what kind of magnesium? Epsom salts?
Yeah.
Yeah, magnesium chloride's the best for restoring magnesium to the cells, to restoring magnesium as far as health benefits. Epsom salts are great for calming and relaxing and sore muscles, and they're great for that. They're not going to heal and restore magnesium at the cellular level. So that's the biggest difference between Epsom salts and magnesium chloride.
So is that what's in the oil?
That's in this oil. Yep. Yep. Yes.
The CBD oil or the castor oil packs, are either of those good? I mean, if you're just looking for something to have that helps you relax and go to sleep instead of melatonin or something that you take orally.
It would, yes.
Either of those-
So the question is would CBD oil or castor oil packs
Yeah, or even the magnesium.
or magnesium,
I don't
yeah,
know what-
be beneficial just for calming and relaxing and going to sleep? Absolutely.
So any of those would be.
Yes. I mean, I would guarantee a difference. Yeah, just because I've seen it with hundreds of people. The magnesium oil I've recommended to people before bed for years. The CBD oil is fairly new to me, but I've heard just rave reviews from people for everything related to stress, anxiety, pain, inflammation, seizures. Yes, yeah. So I'm not saying it works for everybody, but I haven't heard any negatives as far as negative reactions or anything like that. Yeah, yeah. And sometimes we have to start slow. Sometimes we just start with a couple of drops and see how our body does and get used to it, and we have to build up to it. And we can't just go gung ho.
And then when you talked about getting outside, you said don't wear sunscreen or sunglasses.
Right.
So all the stuff out in the media about sunscreen and all of that, it's better to just not do that. Or,
Yes, you probably haven't watched a lot of my classes.
uh-uh.
No, it's fine. I'm just joking with you. I'm so big on talking about the sun, and so no, I'll just share it with you real quick. It's just think about it. Common sense. For thousands of years, people lived outside. They lived in the sun, and they weren't riddled with skin cancer. There's ancient cultures still live in Africa and different places that live in the sun that don't get skin cancer.
It's something else coming from the inside.
Yes, it's an unhealthy body, an unhealthy internal body will cause sun to damage the skin and to damage the body. So if you put, I always talk about astaxanthin, that red algae, it's called astaxanthin. If you start taking that, you'll start tanning. You'll start absorbing the body. God designed us to absorb light. If we go out in the sun for an hour every day and our skin starts to darken, why does that happen? It's God's design. It's God's design. We darken so that we can absorb more light because we're designed to absorb light. Astaxanthin. Yeah. But yeah, the sunscreen industry, the sunglasses industry, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry that wants you to think, they want you to think that the sun is bad for you. There's a lot of money to be made in believing that the sun is bad for us. Now, common sense, we don't burn. If you're fair-skinned, you don't go out in the sun for 6 hours one day going, hey, I shouldn't wear sunscreen. You go out, you build up, you let God work on your melanin and slowly building up, sun, which we can do over the course of a summer. But it is very healthy to be in the sun, especially morning sun. It can get hot in the mid-afternoon, but from 6 to 11, oh, that's amazing. And you study history, and you look at some of the books on my shelf where people were healing people of issues in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, 1900s. What do you think they used to heal people?
Well, even like
Sunshine,
after World War
water.
I, they had people in solariums or whatever
Yes.
it's called, where the therapy was to get them outside in a wheelchair in the sun.
Amen. And where children were born jaundiced, they'd wheel them out into the sun.
Yeah, when my husband was born, his mother had whooping cough. And so what she did, because he was born with a rattle in his chest, sunbath every morning.
Nice.
Naked little boy,
Awesome.
out in the sun
And
every day.
where has our choice of God's creation gone? We just don't choose those things anymore. It's really sad. Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? Hey, I actually brought the classes. Next week is eyesight. I usually never know. Eyesight, and then 2 weeks is fibromyalgia.